Wen Xin and Wen Yang were father and son who both came to prominence under the Third Wei Emperor Tao Fang. Wen Xin was accepted by the scholar gentry and became a politician as well as a military general. Wen Yang, who was known for his great physical strength from a young age, would go on to assist his father in the second rebellion of Shuchun, where he displayed and became known for his bravery as well. The Wen family ancestral home is in Xiao Commandery. The meaning of their family name can be translated to the words literature, writing, or culture. As such, Wen Xin is credited for at least 3 pieces of scripture. One is named the Jiang Wu Biao. This text memorializes the fall of Wu, but only fragments of it exist, which can be found within Guanzhong Jian's biography. He also wrote the Yu Guo Huai, also known as the Book with Guo Huai. This letter was written by Wen Xin to Guo Huai and details his reasons and feelings on the rebellion at Shuchun. A couple of other prominent Wens are Wen Ping and Wen Chao. Wen Xin was born on an unknown date in Xiao Commandery. When Tao Fang, the Third Wei Emperor, reigned, Wen Xin worked as the inspector of Yang province. He went on to have 2 children, the first being Wen Hu, then Wen Yang. The promising Wen Yang was born at around 238, although it's not recorded precisely where. He grew to be notably powerful, and presumably aided his family in their endeavours. Wen Xin's loyalty to the Tao clan compelled him to write his 3rd piece of scripture when Sima Shi removed Tao Fang from power. This text, which is known as the Zui Zhuang Sima Shi Biao, translates to the Table of Sima Shi's Wrongdoings. It highlights Sima Shi's crimes and justifies the righteousness of the rebellion at Shuchun. One quote within this says, Guanzhong Jian, Wen Xin, and etc.'s table, meaning that this table wasn't made by just those 2 alone. Their rebellion is known as the Second Rebellion of Shuchun. It happened in the year 255 when Wen Yang was around 18 years old. When he reached adulthood, his name changed to Wen Shou, but I'll continue to use his better-known infant name of Wen Yang. Wen Xin and Guanzhong Jian intended to secretly muster a large army before launching their revolt, but Sima Shi managed to quell their uprising within a matter of months. Their request to Zhuge Dan to increase recruitment and levies from the people of Yu province was too obvious. Zhuge deduced their true intentions and had the messenger killed, before reporting this incident to Sima Shi. Multiple Wei armies led by Sima Shi, Deng Ai, Zhuge Dan and others very quickly made their way to Shuchun. The Wu kingdom sent Sun Liang to reinforce Guanzhong Jian and Wen Xin's rebellion as they looked for an opportunity to seize Shuchun for themselves. The rebellion was put down with relative ease though, as they severely lacked the numbers to put up an effective fight. Their failed ruse to recruit extra troops, paired with the deserters who feared for their families' lives, meant they simply didn't have the strength. Wen Yang was ordered by his father to attack Deng Ai's army, as it appeared to only have a few number of troops. He ended up fighting against an army of more than 100,000 soldiers without knowing it, as Sima Shi was secretly reinforcing Deng Ai's position. One of Wen Yang's night raids had aggravated an eye injury that Sima Shi was going through to the point that it popped out. This massively contributed to his demise, as his condition deteriorated greatly and he died less than 1 month later. It was only when morning came and Wen Xin saw how large the enemy army was that he fled and ordered for a retreat. It was unsuccessful though, and his army was routed by Sima Ban, which caused a mass exodus from the people of Shuchun to Wu. As the people of Shuchun could be considered guilty by association and had contributed to the uprising, they wanted to avoid any punishment. The area was soon thrown into chaos, and the Wu army retreated before they could provide any assistance. Guanzhong Jian ended up being captured and executed, whilst Wen Xin and his family managed to escape to Wu. Zhuge Dan started his own rebellion at Shuchun a few years later, as his loyalties ultimately lied with the Tao clan and his entourage. Sima Zhao mustered a vast army of 260,000 to invade Shuchun. Initial plans were to deal massive damage in the early stages to ward off the incoming Wu reinforcements. Wen Xin and his followers, including Yanyi and Tongjian, predicted this though, and marched at full speed to enter the city before it became surrounded. The siege went on for over a year, with an unsuccessful relief mission by Wu taking place in that time, as well as Wen Xin's numerous failed attempts to pierce through the enemy ranks to break free. He had been fighting on the front line with his unit this whole time, whilst his relationship with Zhuge Dan slowly deteriorated. The two were distrusting of each other to begin with anyway, but things got especially bad for their forces when they agreed on what strategy they should adopt to get out of this situation. Zhuge Dan had been advised to merge the Wu and Wei armies, then to focus their attack in one area to break free. Wenxin strongly disagreed to this. He was unaware that the rest of the Wu army had already retreated after suffering a defeat, but he still managed to convince Zhuge Dan that more troops would soon arrive. The rift created by Zhuge Dan agreeing with Wenxin led to Zhuge's supporters defecting over to the Wei side. This in turn inspired Sima Zhao to cause more defections by using fake letters. The resulting loss of troops for the rebels further weakened them. With no other choice, the pair then attempted the before-rejected strategy of breaking the siege with a concentrated use of force. This ended badly though, with even more casualties for the rebels and their supplies becoming critically low. Wenxin proposed to Zhuge Dan that he relieve the Wei troops from under him to ensure the longevity of the supplies. Zhuge Dan, who saw this as a ruse to remove him from power, had Wenxin executed instead. Wen Yang and Wen Hu went to avenge their father upon learning of his death, but the soldiers under them didn't obey their commands. Historically, Wen Yang did not cause havoc in Shuchun upon learning of his father's death, nor is there any mention of his famous whip of steel. With nobody following their orders, the brothers were forced to flee the city by climbing over the castle walls. They defected over to Sima Zhao, who pardoned the pair of them and granted them titles. They were then used as an example to display Sima Zhao's benevolence, as they were paraded around Shuchun with 100 horsemen who shouted, "See, Wenxin's sons are spared after they surrendered. What's there to be afraid of?" Sima Zhao finally issued the advance order against the ruined rebel army, which led to Zhuge Dan's death as he attempted to flee. Sima Zhao gave Wen Yang and Wen Hu carriages and oxen, and allowed them to retrieve their father's body to hold a proper funeral. Sima Zhao was then seen as a hero for the state of Wei, which greatly repaired the divide between the Tao and Sima loyalists throughout the kingdom. With the Shuchun rebellion put down, it also allowed Wei to focus entirely on conquering Shou. This was eventually achieved in the year 263, but the Wei kingdom itself didn't last much longer after the fall of Shou. Sima Zhao continued to pressure the current emperor Tao Huan to grant him the 9 bestowments. When this was eventually allowed, it became clear that a regime change would soon follow. Sima Zhao cemented his usurpation with the final step of becoming a vassal king, and given the title King of Jin. Once he passed away, his son Sima Yan inherited his position and took the final step, forcing Tao Huan to abdicate before declaring himself emperor. The Jin dynasty was then established, where Wen Yang is next recorded where he led Jin forces to attack Xianbei peoples. He currently held the position of protector of the army who pacifies the barbarians, and was called upon to lead armies from Yong and Liang provinces to invade Tufu Shu Jineng. His success here led to 200,000 tribespeople submitting to the Jin dynasty. He also became more famed, as words of his military prowess and martial ability spread. The Jin dynasty then entered a brief prosperous period known as the Taiping era from the years 280 to 289. This was cut short as the migration of barbarian tribes led to the Han Chinese peoples being outnumbered in a few regions. This issue eventually led to the Wu-Hu uprising, which split the Jin dynasty into two. The barbaric tribes took control of much of northern China and its heartland, whilst the Jin dynasty was forced south of the Hua River and became known as Eastern Jin. During the Taiping era, Wen Yang was summoned to meet with Sima Yan, Emperor Wu. He visited his court and bid him farewell before Wen Yang left to take office, but the emperor did not take kindly to Wen Yang and soon found a way to cancel his arrangement. In the year 291, Sima Yao held a grudge against Wen Yang for causing the downfall of Zhuge Dan, as he was Zhuge's maternal grandson. He accused Wen Yang of trying to start a rebellion, which led to the arrest and execution of him and his family. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.